Okay, are we on?
We are on, I think.
Okay, so Magid. Okay, so today is the yard site of one of the most mysterious figures of the last 1,000 years, Rabi Yehuda Hachassid. Rabi Yehuda Hachassid. He passes away in the year 1217, just over 800 years ago. Lives in Germany, and if I'm not mistaken, the year he passed away in was one Adar. He passed away Tainus Esther. But we know when it comes to yard sites, if someone passes away in a Stam Adar, most opinion holds that in the Ibra year you go after Adar Aleph. Adar Aleph for yard sites, Adar Beis for birthdays. So it's his yard site, just over 800 years. And there are a number of works that are attributed to him. Chiefly the Sefer Chareidim over here. Although some believe that it may have been put together by his student, and we'll talk about that, but it's attributed to him, and so too is the famous tzavor, the famous will that he left, with many, many strange codes of behavior, and we'll talk about that too. There are other seforim that are linked to him. There's a commentary on Chumash, there's a sefer called Sefer Gematrios.
He's from the Kohanim family, right?
He is. His grandfather's name was Reb. There was even some of the Tosfos and some of the commentaries of Tosfos were attributed to him, but apparently now they realize it actually was from a different tradition by the name of Rabi Yehuda, somebody else. Okay, so that's...
How long ago,
He was born... Okay, so here's the story. In order to appreciate what we're going to discuss, we're going to discuss the family background. Rabi Yehuda Hachassid was part of a group known as the Chasidei Ashkenaz, the pious people of Ashkenaz. The group really is 3 generations. Rabi Yehuda Hachassid's father, whose name was Shmuel Hachassid, his son Rabi Yehuda Hachassid, and Rabi Yehuda Hachassid's chief student, Rabbi Elazar Roikeach, Rabbi Elazar of Worms, the Roikeach, the famous Roikeach, right. Now, Yehudah Hachassid had many students. He had a big yeshiva, we're going to see, but his primary student in Kabbalah was Rabbi Elazar Roikeach of Worms. So there was a group called Chasidei Ashkenaz, the pious people of Ashkenaz, and they're mentioned in seforim, the Tur. The Tur quotes them as a group of the Chasidei Ashkenaz, and he says they have a tradition of the precise numbers of letters and words in the tefillas, and how accurate the tefillas are and what they represent, and the whys and the whats. The Tur says the Chasidei Ashkenaz have a tradition because Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid's father, Reb Shmuel, his father was known as Reb Kloinimus Hazoken from Magenzer, from Mainz, and he's very chosh of a family. The Chidor writes that they have a tradition about the tefillas going back to the Tanoim. It was passed down, I guess, father to son, teacher to student, and there were things that only this family knew. We have a few generations back to someone called Reb Abun Hagodol, and he was a master of the Pnimius Inyanim. We don't know much about him. So it really, I guess, begins with Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid's father, Reb Shmuel. Reb Shmuel Hachassid was born in the year 1115. 1115. Who's alive at 1115? Rashi just passed away 10 years before. The Rif had just passed away. The RAMBAM's not yet born. Rabbeinu Tam is alive. Rabbeinu Tam was 15 years old. He was a young bacher at the time when Reb Shmuel was born. Reb Shmuel was born in Germany. Rabbeinu Tam is in France. Generally at the time, the Chachamim, Rabbeinu Gershom, the legend, was in Germany. His students were in Germany. But the center kind of moved to France with Rashi. Rashi's famous yeshiva in Troyes, in Troyes, really became a center that Torah in a certain way shifted from Germany to France, especially after 1096, the First Crusade, when many communities in Germany were massacred, particularly what's known as Shem. Shem, the Shin is Spire, where all the Shapiros come from. The Vav is Vermeise, worms, and the Mem is Magensa, mines. those cities were massacred. So later on, France that's where most of the Balei Tosos are in France. Rabbeinu Tam, his nephew the Ri, their students, they're in France. One? It's unclear. We know that Yidden were in Spain already. Titus, after he conquered the second Beis Hamikdash, he had friends in Spain, and they said, Titus, send us some of the best that you got from those Jewish people. Send them to help the economy colonize Spain. Germany seems to be much later. I don't know when the first Jew came. There were Yidden 1200 years ago. More than that, we don't know. Rabbeinu Gershom went there, and he turned minds. Rabbeinu Gershom came there in around the year 1000. But he came there because there were already some Yidden there. But Rabbeinu Gershom really turned it into a center of Torah. Till then, Bavel was the place. Even after the Gemoroh for hundreds of years, all the Gaonim were in Bavel. Rav Haigon was still in Bavel when Rabbeinu Gershom opens up shop in Mainz. So Germany had its heyday. Rabbeinu Gershom, his students, Rashi, when Rashi was born in France, but he went to Germany to learn as a boy because that's where all the yeshivas were. Rashi was such a legend that when he went to France, France became a center. I'll tell you the truth, when Rashi passed away, Rashi had a student known as the Riva, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Osher, who opened up the first Tosfos yeshiva in Germany. Don't remember which city, but he opened the first yeshiva in Germany, and this was after the First Crusade. So Germany kind of picked up a bit, but after the Riva passed away, it's brought that almost all of his students went to France to go to Rabbeinu Tam. So in Germany kind of fluctuated a bit, but it's going to pick up now. In 1115, Reb Shmuel is born. It seems like he's born in Speyer. His father was known as Klonimus of Magens of Mainz. I guess that's where he came from. Reb Shmuel seems to be born in Speyer. And he was a young boy when his father, the Reb Klonimus, passed away. This Reb Klonimus was holding with him 1,000 years of traditions about all the secrets of the tefillos. But his son Shmuel was young. Klonimus felt that he was passing. Shmuel was not even bar mitzvah. So he found a guy called Rabbi Lozer Chazan, that was his name, who was shaykh to hear all these secrets. And Rabbi Klonimus passed it all to Rabbi Lozer. He said, when my son Shmuel gets of age, you teach him. So ultimately Shmuel got the whole Kabbalah. Now there was no Zohar. They learned till Pnimis and Yonim. They had Sefer Yetzirah, Sefer Habor, other things. They didn't have Zohar. But this Reb Shmuel was known to be a Baal Shem. Not just he learned Kabbalah, but practical Kabbalah. He made a Golem. It's brought in seforim, he made a Golem. And the Golem used to travel with him. This Reb Shmuel, it's also brought that once he saw a lion and a lioness head to head. Now who wins? The lioness or the lion? It's actually the female who's stronger. And the lion was calling out to Reb Shmuel for help. So Reb Shmuel, however, he was able to save the lion, and from then on the lion used to accompany him as well when he traveled. And he used to travel a lot. He would go in self-imposed exile. At some point, I don't know, Azoy State, that's at some point. So he traveled far. He spent almost 10 years of his life in a self-imposed exile. It's a long time. And he came to France, of course, and he went to the city of Ramro, where Rabbeinu Tam was. Now Rabbeinu Tam was only there until the Second Crusade, when he was almost killed, and then he moved out. Rabbeinu Tam was 15 years older than Reb Shmuel. If the years work out, the Second Crusade is 1146-47. Reb Shmuel could only have been 30 years older. So, but okay, but this is the story that's passed down. That Reb Shmuel was going on self-imposed exile, comes to France. He's going around, and of course he wants to meet her. Who hasn't heard of Rabbeinu Tam? He comes to Ramero, Rabbeinu Tam's city. Rabbeinu Tam was a wealthy man. He used to have many guests by his meal, students. By the meal, there's a stranger there. Rabbeinu Tam asks, "What's your name?" And he says a name of someone who was well known to be an oisvarf, someone who was somewhat of a lowlife. He says that my name is whatever, Shmuel. I don't remember, but it says that the Pratzviner, there was a last name or something, but Rabbeinu Tam said, okay, that's you. Nice to meet you. Enjoy your meal. He didn't really strike up a conversation with him. After the guest left, one of Rabbeinu Tam's students said, you know who that was? That's the famous Shmuel, the Chassid. I guess he was famous even when he was young. That was him. Rabbeinu Tam says, why did he say nothing? They say, well, he's a humble man. He's a humble man, doesn't speak much. So Rabbeinu Tam ran out. He got into his wagon with his students, ran after him. He caught him, and Rabbeinu Tam says, with the power of Torah invested in me, I place you under a Chareidim if you're going to say an untruth. What is your name? He gets his name from him. Rabbeinu Tam says, you're coming back with me. And he came to him, and he spent a few weeks together. And there was a crazy episode that happened during those 3 weeks, that the two of them summoned Malachim into the room. They summoned Eliyahu Hanavi, the Malach Matat, and they brought Moshe Rabbeinu into their room for a halachic discussion. The whole story is recorded in Seder Hadoros 300 years ago. The strangest thing, that it was a big debate Rabbeinu Tam had with Moshe Rabbeinu by the tefillin, the shel rosh, every day. Do you have to actually tie? Do you have to unloose the kesher and tie the kesher? And Moshe Rabbeinu was saying, you have to. Rabbeinu Tam says, you don't have to. And Moshe was saying, Moshe said, Moshe said, you read like this. The tefillin shel yad is not really a sign. Only the shel rosh, everyone can see it. The shel yad is supposed to be covered. It's not really a sign. He said, Moshe Rabbeinu says, pshat in the pasuk's like this. Ukashartum la'ois, you have to tie the ois, which is the head tefillin. So Rabbeinu Tam says, but the pasuk says, al yadecha. Moshe says, no, you have to know how to read the pasuk. Ukashartum la'ois, you tie the ois tefillin. When do you wear that tefillin? If al yadecha, if you have the stuff on the hand, then v'hoyu l'toitofes beinenecha, then you have the shel rosh. But ukashartum was really going on the ois, which is the head. And Rabbeinu Tam was arguing that's not pshat in the pasuk. Rabbeinu Tam said, Moshe, the Eibusha gave you the Torah, fine, but once it was given, my opinion is just as good. It's a long piece in the Seder Hadoros, the whole back and forth. It's in Seder Hadoros where he speaks about, probably by Rabbeinu Tam, in the entry of Rabbeinu Tam, if I'm not mistaken. He has the whole story there. And the one that was bringing all these malachim was the Shmuel Hachassid. One other story about him, and then we'll move. He was famous for using Kabbalah Maises, practical Kabbalah. A group of 3 Galachim traveled from far. And they said, we heard about your Maifsim. Did you hear about ours? They wanted to have a showdown. So Reb Shmuel said, listen, I have a friend, Reb Yankov, he lives far away. He has a manuscript I very much desire. If you could somehow magically get that manuscript here, then that will, then I'll admit that you have some koyach over there. They took him to a forest. It could be there were some other people there. They went to a forest. There were 3 galachim. They made a circle around one of them, and the 2 of them said, we are going to summon the soul of the 3rd galach, who's going to pass out. His soul will travel to that Yankov. He will get the manuscript, will bring it back. And they did that. The guy Taka passed out. His soul was traveling. It was a 3-day journey to go there and back. When the 3 days are up, these 2 galachim are whispering incantations. They can't get the guy to revive. The soul is back, but they can't bring the soul back in the body. They can't figure out what's going on. They look and they see that Shmuel is muttering something. They said, what are you doing? He says, listen, you were boasting about your koyach. See if you can bring... They couldn't do it. He said, okay, I'll stop muttering my shemus, but you have to be moider that my koyach is stronger than your koyach. And he stopped talking, and the guy Taka revived, and apparently he had the manuscript in his hand. These are the maises that have been passed down about Shmuel. There is something that the Rebbe said. The RAMBAM writes in a letter. He writes that Mashiach is going to come, and he gives a year, which was a couple years after the RAMBAM passed away. Now that year came and went 800 years ago. But the Rebbe said the Rambam wasn't so off because that year Shmuel Hachassid was born. And he was such a prophet. The Rambam wasn't so much speaking about Mashiach coming, he was speaking about when prophecy will return, which is a Hagdolah to Mashiach coming. And the Rebbe said this Shmuel Hachassid was a Navi. Now the Rebbe wasn't the first person to call him a Navi. 500 years ago already, when he's quoted by the big Paiskim, they referred to him as Shmuel HaNavi. In other words, he had visions, he saw things. And the Rebbe said that his birth was a fruition of the Rambam's prophecy of Nevuah returning to the Yidden. Fascinating. That's Shmuel. So now that you know who Shmuel is, we can talk about his son. His son, Rabi Yehuda, was born, we don't know the exact year, roughly 1150, which would make his father around 35. These years are our estimate. Yehudah Hachassid is born in Speyer. He's living in Speyer. And let's begin with number one. In number one is a story about his mother while Yehudah was in exactly an uber b'mei imay. Number one, there's a ma'aseh she'imay shel Rabbeinu, the mother of Yehudah Hachassid, k'shahoy sahara, when she was expecting loled to bear him. Avra liyad beis hakneses b'vermayzer. They were in Worms, for whatever reason, and she was passing by a shul in Worms, and there was a very narrow lane. Ubal likrasa, towards her comes a gola, a wagon. To una masa covered, heavy wagon, means going fast, you can't stop. Baal ha'agola ha'nochri, the goyish wagon driver, Bikishla wanted to crush her. The hated says sus of the crosser, he whips the horses to get them going. Kadav ma'oid el kir beis hakneses, so close to the door of the shul. Almanos limchaitz ois lakir, to crush her to the wall. The nasa lones, a miracle happened. The kir beis hakneses shoka pnima, the wall of the shul all of a sudden indented inwards. Kefim it does exactly according to her measurements. So she kind of just was like sucked into the wall. So the story is about Rashi, but it's also about Yehudah Hachassid, and I think this is actually the more reliable version, but I don't know, I wasn't there by either of them. The Kach Nitzlan, so she was saved. Sipur zen is amas ayidei anoshim rabim b'doros sheinim. Many people attest to this. Sheidu, they testify, they saw the sheker, they saw the indent in the wall of the shul. Now that doesn't prove it's Rabbi Yehudah Hachassid. Could have been Rashi's. But Al Kopanim, this is the story that's written about Rabbi Yehudah Hachassid. So already as a fetus. So the question is, who's the star of the story, Rabbi Yehudah Hachassid or his mother? Was it B'schus the mother, who was obviously a big tzadekis, or was B'schusai? We don't know. There is an old legend, and I'm going to repeat, it's not on the paper, I'm going to repeat it because I've seen it in many places, so it's part of Jewish folklore. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. According to this legend, Rabbi Yehudah Hachassid, when he was younger, was not into learning. His father, Reb Shmuel, had a yeshiva. Reb Shmuel, besides for being a big makubal and everything, he was also a Rosh Yeshiva. And Rabbi Yehudah was playing around. Rabbi Yehudah had a brother, by the way, Rabbi Avraham, who became a big Rosh Yeshiva later as well. But Rabbi Yehudah apparently was running around. So Rabbi Shmuel's students one day say, Rebbe, you're busy teaching the whole world Torah, and you have a son over here, and he can't sit for a second and learn. He's up to no good. Well, up to no good, but he was wasting his time. Rabbi Shmuel becomes very serious, and he says the name of Hashem. And the entire room became full of Getlachkeit, and all of the students, they had to face the ground. The only one who was unfazed was Rabbi Yehudah. He was the only one unfazed. So his father says, and specifically to Rabbi Yehudah's brother Avraham, you're going to be a big Rosh Yeshiva, but the one who's going to carry the torch of all the Kabbalistic tradition is going to be your brother Rabbi Yehudah, because you see the greatness of his soul, that he was able to receive all this godliness and he wasn't fazed. According to this story, Rabbi Yehudah himself was so inspired by that his father showed him that you have something that nobody has. So he made a 180 and he threw himself into learning. That's just Azoi brengt sich de Meise. What should I tell you? Al Kapanim, Rabbi Yehudah Hachassid was living in Speyer for a while. One night he has to leave. This is also a well-documented story. What was the story? Very mysterious. He had a certain box in his house. He told his wife, you can never touch that box if you're a niddah. Never touch the box. One night his wife was cleaning the house and a mistake. She picks up the box. Rabbi Yehuda runs home. We're out of here. We have to leave here right away. They left the city and he moved to Regensburg. And he lives the rest of his life in Regensburg, which is in Germany. And he opens that. He has a big yeshiva there. And Rabi Yehuda Hachassid, as was the Rosh Yeshiva, he had big students. The Orzarua learned Nigla by him. The Smag, others learned. Ultimately, he passes away in Regensburg. And in number 3, we have a story. This is from Reuven Margolis, who wrote incredible footnotes on Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid's works. He brings the following story in number 3. That by Regensburg, Huchruchu lahavir kol meis, by licham oisay l'makam kvurasay derech shar ha'ir. Regensburg, I guess, was kind of a walled city. And every mace, every dead body had to be taken through the gate of the city to the cemetery. The Tolu Anochem Pa'aman al Ashar, the Goyim, they hanged bells by the gate. And whenever they took a body through, Tziltzil HaPa'aman, they would bang those bells. The Ruzhner once said if the Christians would know how much tumah they cause and create by ringing the bells, they would do it all day. Not just on the hour, they would do it the entire day. The amount of klippa comes from those bells. When the Yehuda Hachassid was ill, he said, if I am a ben olam haba, then this gate will fall after my death. And I take that to mean that he also meant that those bells aren't going to be ringing when they pass my body through. I just say that because of the end of the story, when they took his bed, meaning the coffin, through the gate, and he was the biggest rabbi of the city, you could be sure that the Christian gatesman was very excited to ring those bells over the body of Rabi Yehuda Hachassid. So the shoyer ran, lastes kergele. So I imagine the Yidden wanted to take his body fast so they wouldn't ring the bells. The bellman ran as fast as he could so he can chap around the bells. The problem is he ran so fast that when he went, v'nofal hashar, I guess the whole thing destabilized, maybe because of how fast he was running. The shar, the gate with the bell fell. The shoyer, the gatesman, the bellman was killed. And the bell never rang.
What's so bad about a bell?
And the Goyim said, now we know how great this man was. You know,
Like the church bells.
church bells, yeah, church bells. So that's a story that happened when he passed away. So like we said, he was a Rosh Yeshiva. To the naked eye, that's what he was. He gave Shurim and Nigla in Halacha. But we know him more for his mystery. We know him more. Oh, good, we have some Kohen stuff coming up. Wow. He must be, wow.
This came from Hollywood.
Wow.
Look at you, dressed
I thought you dressed up for the shir.
Yeah, but Shem, I didn't get back into my other clothes.
That's it.
No, you dressed like this for the shir.
Yeah, for Yehudah Hachassid Yartzeit. I saw that on the thing. I should cut it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyhow, he wasn't a Kohen, but we're going to... Nonetheless, so we just discussed a bit about his father, about his life. To the naked eye, he was a regular Rosh Yeshiva in Germany. We said he's famous for his yeshiva in Regensburg. He had to move from Speyer because his wife moved the box, the forbidden box. We have no idea what was in the box. No, it's a mystery.
I thought you were going to.
He told his wife, "You don't. It's a Pandora's box, right? You're going to open up, and who knows what's going to come out." So, but we know Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid for his mystery, for his Kabbalah, because, like we said before, his father, Reb Shmuel Hanavi, had selected Rabbi Yehuda specifically to be the one to carry on the torch that had been passed down for 50 generations, going back to the Tanoim. In number 2, this is from the Sefer Chareidim, Rebbe Lazar Ezkori, who was a contemporary of the Arizal and Tzfas in the 1500s. He writes a comment, I've quoted it before, I love to quote it. He says, Derech hachoshek l'sherer, someone who's in love likes to sing. V'kivan sha'avas yotzreinu niflo ma'avas noshim, loving the Eibush is even greater than to a woman. So, if someone sings to a woman, how much more so you should sing to God. Ha'oyev oisei b'leiv shalom. I quoted it once.
Yeah.
I quoted about the Ibn Ezra. If someone loves God with a full heart, he will sing before him. Kasher Sharma, like Moshe sang, and the Yidden sang, and Miriam, and Divrei, and Yeshua, and Korach's and David, and Shlem, Baruch HaKodesh. Ubetoikev hacheshik bo yisparach, and with a tremendous desire for the Eibishter. It wasn't just in the times of Tanakh. The Rishonim, even the Achronim, Sharlafon, even recent scholars sang before God. And he mentions three of the big Rishonim: Rabi Yehuda Halevi, the author of the Kuzari; Rabi Yehuda Hachassid, he's our guy; and Avraham ibn Ezra. All three of them great poets. V'chavereim and their friends. What poems do we have from Yehudah Hachassid? Anim Zmiros. The song Anim Zmiros, according to most opinions, not the tune, but the words. The words.
But not the tune on the
No, not the tune,
The tune is from the Rebbe.
Well, from somewhere where the Rebbe got it from, like all the other Nigunim. The words are long. Anim Zmiros and Nafshi Chomd is just two of the stanzas. There are many stanzas. It's a long song. In Ashkenazi shuls, they sing it every Shabbos. When I was a kid growing up in my father's shul, I would sing it.
Anim Zmiros.
No. That's
I did it about Israel too.
Anim Zmiros v'shirim eroi ki elecha nafshi saroi.
Yeah, that's the song. That's another one.
Chamda b'tzel yadecha. Now it's according to most opinions from Yehudah Hachassid.
Wow.
Because it's from an old manuscript that was discovered from hundreds of years ago, and it says clearly from Yehudah Hachassid. Although Rabbi Yankov Emden believes it's from Yehudah Hachassid's father, because towards the end of the song it says, Tikar Rinas Rosh.
Tikar Rosh Be'enecha.
Rinas Rosh, is it Rinas Rosh? The song of Rosh, which means a poor man. But Rosh also stands for Reb Shmuel. As if to say the song of Reb Shmuel should be precious in your eyes. So Rabbi Yankov Emden believes it's from his father. Most believes Rabbi Yehudah Hachassid. Al Kapanim, this is a bit about Rabbi Yehudah Hachassid. Even though it's not in the Seder. It's not in the Seder. Al-Sebe, Pragdomus in the Seder, not Anim Zmiros. Yeah, Anim Zmiros, he taught it.
So we took it in a different way, because in the Seder it is there. It's at the end of davening. They have it in there.
Ashkenazim.
Ashkenazim, yeah.
There was a whole story behind the niggin as well, but
the Rebbe's niggin?
Yeah. An incredible story.
What?
No. Yeah,
At the end of this year, we have to. It's connected to Rabbi Yehuda.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah. We'll save that.
All right.
So here's the thing. One story. Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid, there was a gvir in his town, in Regensburg, who was clean shaven. So, we'll save that story too. Let's get to what we have over here. There's a story I always love to quote, Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid's Bachrim. They said, Rebbe, we have a chasana. Remember the story? In another town. He said, don't go!
Beers.
Oh,
They said,
the one with
they said, we're
the.
gonna go. He said, you have to go through the forest. The forest is dangerous. They said, we know Kabbalistic Kabbalah Mises. He told them not to go. They went. They were attacked by bandits. They used a Kabbalistic name. And they survived. They went to the wedding. They come back. Rabbi Yehuda says, what'd you guys do? You abused the holy name? Who asked you to go there? I told you no. You just lost.
Are you allowed to put yourself in danger?
If you use the crown of the Eibishter, you could lose your life, even the world to come. Right. You could lose the world to come. So he says, if you want to get it back, you have to go back to the scene of the crime, same place, meet those bandits, and this time no Kabbalistic tricks. And they went, and they were all killed. And Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid told his other students that, as sad as it is, it's a big benefit, because now they went straight to Gan Eden.
Right, they allowed to Shem.
Very disturbing.
Yeah.
It's very disturbing. Well, you'll ask, can you not use names of Hashem to save your life? But they shouldn't have gone in the first place. They were told not to. They were told not to go. Right, exactly. Yeah.
Against everything.
Because
We had a
they
whole
come up.
shiur that Shuvah, you have to go back to the scene of the crime, remember?
Yeah, that was
Going back to the scene of the crime. Anyhow, Al Kapanim, Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid wasn't a man to mess with. He was serious business. I don't know any jokes that he said. He was once by a bris. Okay? Usually when they bring the baby, everybody stands up. Eliyahu Hanovi is there. You stand up. Rabi Yehuda Hachassid didn't stand up. So some of his students asked Rebbe, what's that? Everyone stood up and you sat. So he told a few of his students, those that were able to see, he says, there's an old man standing in the corner. You've never seen him before. So they look, they see someone never seen. He tells his students, only a few of you can see him. No one else in the room can see him. That's Eliyahu Hanovi. Why is he hanging out in the corner? Usually he comes and takes his seat by the... But he didn't. He said, Eliyahu Hanovi doesn't want to be here. But because Hashem said, he complained that Yidden don't keep the bris, Hashem said, you're going to see every single one. But he's hanging out in the corner. You know why? Because this kid is one day going to be a major apikairos. And because of that, he doesn't even want to sit on the chair. And therefore, if Eliyahu doesn't want to participate in the bris, so I didn't stand up. That's the story, and it always bothered me. If Eliyahu Hanovi isn't going to sit by that kid, what hope does the kid have not to be an apikairos?
Not giving him a chance.
Anyhow, so you get a bit of an idea that Yehuda Hachassid is someone otherworldly. A few of his practices are brought in Shulchan Aruch. He used to fast 2 days Yom Kippur, 48 hours. Just like every Yom Tov, if you don't know which is the real day, you fast 48 hours. His student, the Urza Ruah, Rabbi Yitzchak of Vienna, writes that if people want to fast 2 days Yom Kippur, he says, I don't encourage anyone to do it. If people ask me, I'll tell them, don't do it. But if I see someone do it, I'll never mock them or I'll never reproach them because my Rebbe did it. I don't encourage it, but because my Rebbe did it, if I see someone do it, I can't... it's holy. It's holy.
You do Tes and Yud or Yud and Yud?
Yud and Yud Aleph, because Elul's 29, maybe 30. So another thing about him which is brought is that Shabbos you can't fast, not by night, not by day. Oinik Shabbos you have to enjoy. But in Shulchan Aruch it's brought, what if eating Shabbos by day is harmful? For example, Rabi Yehuda Hachassid fasted every day of his life, by day. Only ate at night. By day he never ate.
Every day?
Every day. Sunday, Monday, every day. He only ate at night. Never ate by day. Even in the long summer German days, he ate at night. So for him to eat Shabbos day would mess up his whole system. So the Shulchan Aruch says, if you're such a person, for you, Einik Shabbos is to fast. So that's his brought there as well. So these are his hobbies, shall we say. What?
It's a case of Shinui Veses.
Yeah, exactly. The whole cycle goes off. Okay. Now, he's famous, like we said, for his Sefer Chassidim and for his special Tzavah, the Will and Testament. They're two separate works. The Will and Testament most probably wasn't written by him, but by his students, and that's crucial, as we'll see in a few minutes. Today they're printed in the same Sefer. It's in the Sefer Chassidim. The Will and Testament's only 40, 50 pages. The next 500 pages are the Sefer Chassidim. I put a few here just to get a bit of a taste. There's about 70 or 80 all up, different like one-liners that he says. And let's read it. Look at number 4. K'shekayvrin ish, if you bury a woman, shehoisa eicheles yeladim b'chayeh, that would eat babies while she was alive. I had to put this in just because of the strangeness of it. So now she died, you're burying her. Imrayim pia pasuch, what if you see her mouth is open as a corpse?
Use them in some way. Actually eat them.
No, because he's worried that she's undead. If her mouth is open as a corpse, you have to fill up that mouth. This is like real medieval...
this is stuff in the movie.
Biyadua shetasa kain la'achar moisa shana achas. She's going to come out of her grave and do it. So you lamalos pia ba'afa, you have to fill that mouth with earth. V'loi tazik oid, she won't damage anymore.
Dracula.
Okay, this is he speaks about vampires in the Sefer Chassidim. But this is his will that he left. We'll see if it's for only his kids or for all Yidden. Okay.
They put clay in people's mouths nowadays? Or is
Clay?
it only on the eyes?
Put dirt from Yerushalmi.
No, they put clay.
In the mouth?
I don't know if it's the mouth. They definitely put on the eyes.
Keep it closed.
No, it's shards of clay. Specifically clay.
In Israel?
Clay pottery. No, here. I do it all the time. I don't remember if they put it on the mouth or not. They definitely put it on the eyes.
Okay, fine. Number 5, here I have from a few others. The beginning in Lamed Vav, number 36. Lo yaniach adam melizkei kemishtoi laila shetov lo boy. The night the wife goes to mikveh, you have to be with her. Now that's a halacha. That's a real halacha in Shulchan Aruch, right? That's oina. The mitzvah min ha-Torah of oina, of being with your wife at the right time, is lel tevila. That is the biggest. So you wonder why he even had to write that. This according to many, it's a biblical obligation. At least rabbinic. Okay. The next one he says, this is a great one. Number 37 is ha'omer derech schoikai derech azus. If someone says in a way of laughter or daring or derech gizm or gizm guzma is exaggeration, or derech litzanos or his anger, that I'm going to do ABC, even if he only said it once, make sure you do it before you die. So if in the course of a conversation you stated that you threw out some sarcastic comment of doing a certain act, make sure you do it before make sure it's on the bucket list.
A lot of stuff I got to do.
Next one. Lo yelech adam mi beiser l'derech. This is the famous one. You shouldn't leave your house for a trip and go back home if you forgot something. Rach yamer lifnei abayis. Rather, you stand outside, get someone else to go in and tell them what you need. That's a famous one that people are careful about. Well, we're always forgetting things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learning this.
You see what happened, right?
Well, you didn't know why you did it.
Right, by Yaakov, yeah.
You never asked someone to bring
The next one is Lo Yimshich Adam, also a famous one. You should not polish your shoes on the day that you plan to go on a trip.
The Alter Rebbe commented on this.
But this is
Yeah.
the reason. Because at least it will know, right? If they see your
The Alter Rebbe was asked about, the Alter Rebbe said if I would explain just this one, I would have to write a set of seforim bigger than the whole Shalah, just to explain that one. So it could be what you're saying is one layer. One layer. But these things, the Rebbe once commented that, the Rebbe once by Fabrengen, I didn't have time to get on the sheet, said, we're only getting the bottom line of this. There is so many layers of meaning behind. All you get is the bottom line. So to us it's a chayk. To us there's, go break your head in the wall and figure out why. The Baal Shem Tov apparently said about one of, I think it was also about this one, about the Shusha, and the Baal Shem Tov said, I'm amazed that a man born from a human mother could have come up with this. It's like, we don't even know what's behind the background. The next one he says, this is a good one. Lo yeshiv al egla shoymedes b'sfina. You should not sit on a wagon that's in a boat. If you're in a boat, you shouldn't sit in your car.
Wait a second. That's all these.
Like the ferry.
You shouldn't sit in your car. You shouldn't sit in your
So
car.
if you're visiting Brody and Fish Round.
What the Brody? Get out of your
Get out of your car.
Well,
Yeah,
ladies.
get out of
Those
your
ladies
car.
died in the car.
What?
No, it fell off.
It fell off the boat. The
Was it
thing
2 years
just
ago?
turned, man.
Fell.
We had to fight the autopsy.
go.
Those
Going
ladies
from where to where?
from here.
That's why you
to
gotta get
Fish
out of
Rock.
that.
Fish around?
And something happened. It rolled off and rolled into the water. And 2
They
years.
couldn't get out.
2 years?
Couldn't open the door. The
Two-
pressure of the
yeah,
water.
we had to fight
Unbelievable.
the-
Horrible. Oh gosh. V'chein lo yirkev al sus, so too you shouldn't sit on a horse if it's inside a boat. V'yesh oimrim af al daf sheboilet masfina lo yeshiv. If a boat has a plank sticking out, you shouldn't sit on the plank. Now that could just be, bad idea.
Right.
But obviously this is more than just bad or good idea.
That's very applicable today too, with all these motorboats, and they have things in the back that stick out. It always scares the heck out of me. The engine's right below the propellers.
Yeah. Next one, this one is actually brought in Shulchan Aruch, number 41. Lo yishchet adam ivzim b'shvat. You should not shecht geese during Shvat. Okay? There's a family that doesn't do it in Tevis. The Iker, though, is in Shvat. The Ramah brings that in Shulchan Aruch, and he says there are sheichtim who don't shecht both months, geese, because there's one day during those 60 days, I don't know which, that if you shecht the goose and you don't eat from its heart, you'll die. So there are sheichtim, you don't know what day it is. If they ever shecht a goose during Tevis or Shvat, they quickly eat the heart. That's what the Ramah brings in Shulchan Aruch.
Lion?
This is the source. No.
Okay.
Number 6, I threw this in about the kohen. He says, Lo yikra ish mizara. You see, this is not him talking, it's his student talking on his behalf. No one from the family of Rabi Yehuda Hachassid should call his son Yehudah or Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda's name was Yehudah, his father was Shmuel. The names are taken, they're reserved No one in the family could give the name Yehudah or Shmuel. Exactly, they're a retired number or something, right?
There's the shochats and the korfs over there with our name.
No Yehudah or Shmuel from Yehudah Hachassid. You can't. Lo Yadu Rav Behildberg. No Rabbi Heidelberg. No Rav should live in Heidelberg. Because Lo Yarach Yamim. No Kohen should live in Regensburg. No Kohenim. A Levi, Kalisha could live. No Kohenim in Regensburg.
Wow.
And no one named Elazar should live in Regensburg. Lo Yoder Ish be Augsburg. And no man or woman should live in Österreich, which is Austria. Eli imken, unless they go from the Malchus every year for 1 month. 1 month a year they have to leave Austria. If you live in Austria, you spend 1 month of the year out of the country.
Wow.
You want to know why? Break your head in the wall. Go figure why. Then he says, Isha Mizaro, if a woman comes from Yehudah Hachassid, she older, once she gives birth, her first meal shouldn't be chicken. No, I once bring Chinese. Someone gave birth. They wanted Chinese right away. But if they're from Yehudah Hachassid, their first thing shouldn't be Chinese chicken.
People today know
That's
that
right.
they're
Should
from
not be
Yehudah
chicken.
Hachassid?
I don't know. Mustama, there are some people.
Doesn't he have something about windows?
Yeah. Says he has tons of stuff over here. So there's famous ones. If you have a window or a doorway and you stuff it up, you have to leave an entrance. You have to leave an opening. Yeah, because the shadim need to leave. So people are, the window anyways is glass. Shadim are a concept. They're not physical. They're conceptual. So they leave through conceptual exits, a window, a door. If you block it up, you have to leave a crack. He said other things. The idea, stretching the someone passes away. Before you bury, you stretch
Then
the...
you block it up. It's not that you can't have a, block up.
No. If you have a window and you want to block it up, leave part of it open. Yeah. By a mace, you stretch out the fingers.
Why?
Shouldn't be clenched. He didn't say why. This is actually an explanation given in Medrash and Yalkut Shemoni. If someone gets buried like this, it looks like they're taking something with them from this world. So they're leaving everything, everything behind. He said not about burying two enemies next to each other, which is brought in halacha. It's from this Rule and Testament. Not having this one person be a sandik for two of your boys. Probably heard that by a bris, not having one. That's from you. Where's that from Yehudah Hachassid? And then by the what?
Some of these things because of Ayin Hara, or not?
Yeah. So many
Same
of these
idea,
things. So the okay,
Two
right.
brothers shouldn't get Leah.
Yes, that's also brought in Shulchan Aruch. I don't know if that's not from him. That's right, Ein Hara. He said a lot about marriage, of course, and that's where we're going to go. He says two brothers shouldn't marry two sisters, or Bechlal, two siblings from one family shouldn't marry two siblings from another.
There's just an article today about this.
Really?
There's a family, the third couple from two families.
So he said that a boy shouldn't marry a girl if her father is the same name as yours, and so to the girl and the mother-in-law. He says even more. The two Mechutanim, the fathers of the Chas and Kala shouldn't have the same name. That's not so...
the father of the Chas and Kala?
The father, the Chas and the father, the Kala shouldn't have the same name.
That could be a problem with us because you have a lot of Menachem Mendel's.
But so the Vorti is not all of his tzavois have become mainstream. Some yes, some not. That's what we're going to talk about. So let's go. Let's see what we can get done. We're going to do this quick. Okay. So he said two siblings shouldn't marry two other siblings. He said you can't marry your niece.
Right.
The problem is many of these things he said not to do are clear okay actions in the Gemoroh. That the Gemoroh says are perfectly okay. And the question is going to be, well, how could he debate with the Gemoroh? Is it a debate? And if it is a debate, who do we follow? Why would we listen to him against the Gemoroh? And how could he go against the Gemoroh? And this is... Yeah, it's a mitzvah, because the Rambam sees it's a mitzvah. Right, we're going to see.
Was he considered a Kabbalist?
Most definitely. He was the Kabbalist of the generation.
So then Kabbalah
There is-
can argue with Gemara. It depends if it's the Zohar
We would rather not. We would rather not. We would rather try and explain how it works.
Sure,
how it
but
works.
there is an avenue that...
There is. The Vilna Gaon said that there's never a real contradiction between Kabbalah and Gemara. You have to know how to weave it through, and the Rebbe definitely always tried to do that. To weave it through, you don't want to have a
He
debate.
said that's what the halacha say. How about the...
They asked, the Hillel Parasha said that,
Yeah.
that in the Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe writes in Hilchos Tefillin, Kabbalah versus Halacha, you follow Halacha.
Later on,
But
he switched.
in the Seder, when it was Seder, Alter Rebbe said, if Kabbalah and Halacha go head to head, you follow the Kabbalists. So they asked Alter Rebbe, you wrote in Shulchan Aruch, you follow the Poskim. Alter Rebbe, that's what the Poskim say. The Kabbalists say you follow the Kabbalists. You know? Listen, the Arizal created the bracha hanoisin layoyev koyach. Do you know how much firestorm that bracha has created? It's not found in Gemoroh anywhere. The Arizal said to make the bracha. Rabbi Yosef Kaira doesn't bring it. The Chidah is a big believer that whatever the Arizal says, that's it, buck stops there. Rabbi Yosef Kaira disagrees. The Chidah is sure that had Rabbi Yosef Kaira known what the Arizal knew, he would have agreed, and therefore it's not a real argument. Avadia Yosef, who was the Sephardic rabbi of the previous generation, he was a big scholar, for our times. He disagreed with the Chidah big time on this. Who is he? I know, but let me just tell you what his opinion. He believes that Fakert, Rabbi Yosef Kairo is the be-all and end-all. Maran, he is the... And we will not sway from Rabbi Yosef Kairo's psakim because the Arizal said. It's known that Avadia Yosef had that opinion, and he took on the Chidah. And, so those that follow Avadia, I guess, but there were, in the last generation, there were lots of Sephardic Kabbalists, tons of them, right? And almost all of them were against Avadia Yosef on this. All the Kabbalists sided with the Chidah. A whole group of Sephardic Kabbalists, they sided with the Chidah. But Avadia Yosef doesn't care if the whole world's against him. He was Please. Anyhow. So back to over here. The problem is Rabi Yehuda Hachassid says, let's say not to marry your niece, right? He says you shouldn't marry your niece. Look at number 8. It's a Gemoroh in Yevamos. If someone loves his neighbor, if someone brings close his relative, if someone marries the daughter of his sister, and if someone gives a coin to a poor man when he needs it, on him the pasuk says in Yeshaya, we're number 8, Oz Tikra, you will call, God will answer you. You will cry out, Hashem will say, I am here. So the Gemara is saying that marrying your niece is a beautiful thing. In fact, look at number 9. The Rambam writes, mitzvahs chachamim. The Rambam understands it as a mitzvah that a person should marry bas achos, your niece. And he says, even though the Gemara says the daughter of your sister, hu adin, the daughter of your brother, because don't ignore your own flesh. So the Rambam holds it's the same daughter of your brother, daughter of your lunas a mitzvah. I will tell, look at number 10, is the hagahos maimenios. It's a commentary on the Rambam, written by a Kohen. He was a Kohen in the 1200s. He was a student of the Maram of Rottenburg. He was murdered, he and his family, in the Rindfleisch massacres in 1298. Murdered with many other students of the Maram of Rottenburg. Anyhow, V'chein Pirush Rashbam, he writes in number 10, the Rashbam says that also it's both your sister's son and your brother's son. Why did the Gemara say the son of your sister? Just say if it's both. Because a person's closer to his sister than to his brother. And it's more common that you'll marry her daughter. So the Gemara just said the common case, but in truth, it's by both nieces. Dafka, the daughter of your sister. Because she's bas mazoloi. Your niece from your sister is similar to you. Because we have a rule, roiv bonim doimin la'achayoim. Most children are similar to the mother's brother. So if you marry your sister's daughter, she is similar to you because you are her mother's brother. So Rabbeinu Tam says, Dafka, your sister's daughter. It's not your brother's daughter. So Rashbam, Rabbeinu Tam's brother, disagrees and says it's every niece.
All the Chabadniks marrying their cousins and first cousins trying to get back in there.
Right. The Rambam's opinion is both. We saw in number 9 that Rambam says both. It doesn't matter which niece. He goes like Rashbam. But Rashi says no. Gagui Odom Rabi Malachoise Yoser Ma'achiv. Rashi says a person's feelings are stronger for his sister than his brother. Because you love your sister more than your brother, you'll take good care of your wife if you marry your sister's daughter. So you have Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam saying it's dafka your sister's son. You have the Rashbam and the Rambam saying it's even your brother's son. If you look in the Magid Mishna number 11, who's the main commentary on the Rambam, he gives a bit of marriage advice over here. He says, Kasav Rabbeinu, he says, number 11. He says, the Rambam says, Hu adin lebas achiv. It's also your brother's daughter. But Rashi says, no. Rashi says, Gagui Adam is Robin, is greater on your sister than your brother. And the special mitzvah is dafka, your sister's son. V'das Rabbeinu. So why does the Rambam say it's either nis? It's based on a medrash that Nasa Adam Isha Mekravos, if a person marries a wife from his relatives, it says about him, Etzemat Somai Basar Mibsori. Right, what Adam told Chava. V'ha'inyan says the Magid Mishnah like this. Avas ha'kroivim hitivis. Love of relatives is natural. A man and a wife is created. Avas ishli ishtoi bo machmas maisa. A husband and wife, it's because of circumstance. It's a mikra lehem. You happen to marry each other. Family, it's in your blood. Ubichaber if you could imagine, if you could marry a relative, so you have both, you dance by both weddings, so to speak. You have the created love of a husband and wife, plus the natural love, which apparently is there by relatives. Yeah. If you can have them both, then the oil nochen, the yishalom bias, you can imagine how beautiful it would be. The Yadui says, She'ein lecha kroiv she'yachol adam lisa yosin basachas. Now, it could be a cousin. Once you're saying this, it better be a relative, so it could be a cousin. No, but there's nothing stronger than the daughter of your sister or the daughter of your brother.
Who's saying this?
The Magid Mishna is saying why the Rambam felt it's any niece.
Isn't it interesting? Because the Rambam himself, there was that famous where he says that it's your family members. It's talking about Yershin, and it was your family member, your brother was specifically you don't do a certain thing because they're not close and you're not, and they're your threat. They're your threat.
For a mesis to seduce someone to avodah zarah.
Yeah. That's the halacha.
Yeah, that's the Gemoroh. Yeah.
And the Rambam goes into all the worst ones for you or your own family.
Yeah, it could be.
He's all married.
His first cousin. The Rabbeim all pretty okay. The Tzemach Tzedek and his wife were first cousins. The Reb Maharsh's first wife was his niece, his brother's daughter. Yeah. By the Sheva brachos, she got ill, died 2 months later. Then he married his first cousin, Rebbe Rivkin. Rabi Yehuda Hachassid says you don't marry your niece. The issue is, the Gemoroh says marrying your niece is a beautiful thing. The Rambam says it's a mitzvah. Okay, we see that Rashi Rabbeinu Tam say specifically your sister's daughter. The Rambam though, and the Rashbam say it's either niece. But either way, Rabi Yehuda Hachassid forbids the whole thing.
How can he forbid the whole thing?
Yeah, either way. Yeah. What's going on? He forbids even your sister's daughter.
More importantly, is even your brother's daughter.
No, even your sister's daughter, which according to everybody is a mitzvah.
Good, right.
It's a mitzvah. He says, don't do it. How could he say that? Another thing, look at number 7. This is number 7 to Gemoroh and brachos. When Rabbi Yitzchak came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, he said there was a certain city in Israel called Gufnis. There were 80 pairs of Kohen brothers, meaning there were 160 Kohenim, Bachrim, and there were 80 pairs of brothers. Now, corresponding to them were 160 girls, 80 pairs of sisters. And every pair of brothers married a pair of sisters. And all of those girls were daughters of Kohenim. You would have danced on that.
Oh my gosh, it's
pure
like
blood.
heaven.
Losing it. Pure blood.
So wait, hold on. Let's see what happened. There were Shmoinim Zugas Achim. There were 80 pairs of brothers Kohenim married to Shmoinim Zugas Achis, 80 pairs of girls Kohenis. So Rabbi Yitzchak said that's what happened in Israel. Now he comes to Bavel. He wants to see what's going on in Bavel. Gufnis is the name of a town.
That's what it is. And it's in Israel.
Ubadku Rabbanon, but they came to Rabbi Yitzchak came to Bavel. The rabbis put out a search from Surah to Nodah. They only found one side. They didn't find except the daughters of Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda was a Kohen. He had 2 girls, and they were married to brothers, to Rami bar Chama and Marukva bar Chama, and they weren't even Kohanim. Va'afal gav, even though the girls were Kohentas, but the husbands weren't Kohanim. So in Bavel they had no shaykhs to this whole Kohanim thing. But what does this show you? That 2 brothers marrying 2 sisters was praised? Faked Rabbi Yitzchak saying, you know what goes on in Israel? And in Bavel they looked and they only found one such. It's like something to aspire to.
Could it be that Rabbi Yehuda
and Rabbi Yehuda
saying don't do it because he's talking about Golis?
But it seems like when the Gemoroh says they looked in Bavel, they only found one. Is the Gemoroh lamenting there was only one? Or maybe there's a reason there was only one.
Well, maybe the Gemoroh was possibly lamenting it, and then Rabi Yehuda Hachassid come later on and said, it's only for Israel. Don't do it. Don't try to do it. It's only for Israel.
It's possible. It's a guess. But the fact is he says you shouldn't do it, and the Gemoroh seems to be
it's definitely lamenting.
Praising it, right? So
the same way that we find Tosis says, like health stuff,
right.
So things can change. Maybe he wrote it like with what works. So it's lav dafka that
right.
go against the Gemara.
Yeah. I hear.
It's a different.
I hear. So we're going to see some of those arguments very soon. Another Gemara number 12, and this will be the end of the first page. This is a Gemara in Sotah. Amar Shmuel Saba Chamua Derav Shmuel Barami. There was a guy Shmuel Saba. He was the father-in-law of Rav Shmuel Barami. So the father-in-law and son-in-law had the same name, Shmuel. And the Shever actually quotes the son-in-law. Mishmei Rav Shmuel Barami. You don't often have the Shever quoting the son-in-law. And this is a vart about when Yehudah married Tamar. Yehudah was with Tamar one night, right? And later on he finds out who she was. So this Shmuel Barami said, Kivin Sheyada, once Yehudah was with her once, Shuv loy pastak me, he never stopped. He married her. Because it says here, V'loy Yosaf oid l'daita. Simply you would think it means he didn't continue. But it says about Matan Torah, it was a kol god of Lo Yosef, that the Abish's voice was big. And there Yosef means end, it didn't end. So when it says Yehudah Lo Yosef, it means he didn't end to know Tamar, he remained with her.
Which was opinions that say no.
Right, that Lo Yosef means he didn't continue, right. But who said this word? Shmuel Saba, in the name of his son-in-law, his name was Shmuel. So you see that in the times of the Gemara, people didn't care. So the Iyun Yankov, Rabbi Yankov Raisha, 300 years ago more, points out, you see that the Amoraim didn't care about Yehudah Hachassid's warnings. He says, don't do this. He says, don't do this. Now you should know that by this, even though Yehudah Hachassid was Ashkenazi, the Sfardim were petrified from his words. There was an old Jewish saying that if the Aseres HaDibros would have been in Yehudah Hachassid's will, people would be more careful about them. They're so scared.
Right.
Because generation after generation, the poskim write stories about people that didn't listen. Everyone has stories. The Chidor writes stories. The Sfardi, the Chidor writes stories about people that weren't careful who they married. It ended up no kids, people dying young. It was each story, one after the other. Chaim in Izmir, Chaim Falazhi, more recently, was very nervous about any of Yehudah Hachassid. And before him, Rabbi Yoel HaKohen of Izmir, we've mentioned him many times. He was a generation before the Baal Shem Tov. And even before him, Chaim ben Venesti. He's known as the Kneses Hagdolah, chief rabbi of Izmir. Originally, he was a supporter of Shabsai Tzvi. Shabsai Tzvi knocked out the other rabbi of Izmir and he put the Kneses Hagdolah as Rav. Later, the Kneses Hagdolah turned against Shabsai Tzvi. But all of these big rabbanim, they're very, very afraid to mess with anything from a Yehudah Hachassid. And we're going to see, Dafka, some of the Ashkenazim were the ones, because the Sfardim are more naturally predisposed to the mysterious, to the spiritual. Yeah, spiritual. The Ashkenazim are nigla, rationalists. They've always been. By the Rishonim, what did Rabbeinu Tam do for Parnasa? He had a bank. Rashi's making wine. What are the RAMBAM, the Ramban, their doctors, their philosophers? They learned in Spain. Everyone had there was a different chinuch. Astronomy. They learned all these. But in France and Germany, it was much more nigla, and then you had a job to make parnasa. But the Sfardim for forever, more into Kabbalah, more into the mystery.
The Amoraim to them also had jobs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, yeah. No, but the difference is what type of job. By the Sfardim, the Rajba was a doctor, we know. The Ramban was a doctor. The Rambam was a doctor. You know? The Reuven writes, Reuven lives in Provence, France. He writes, I didn't learn astronomy, so he doesn't want to comment on the Rambams. I'm not from there. In Spain, they learned that. In Spain, they learned many they learned philosophy. Fine. Let's fine. So we've seen a few Gemorahs that say, Rabbi Yehuda, don't marry your niece. Gemorah number 8, it's a mitzvah. Be worried you don't have the same name as your shver. In number 12, the Gemorah seems to say, the Amoraim had no problem with that. Siblings marrying siblings, you have the Gemorah number 7. Now look what happened in Israel, all these Kainim. And in Bavel Nebuch, we only found one such thing. And all these things, the Gemorah seems to give the green light. Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid wants to forbid. Does he have the right to do that? So quickly, join me in number 13. A well-known letter of the Nodah Yehudah. A well-known letter of the Nodah Yehudah. And he was asked, I'll do it outside. He was asked by a student by the name of Reb David. Reb David told him that I have a sister-in-law who wants to get married to a beautiful bocher. The problem is he has the same name as her father. What do we do? And the reason they have the same name is because this bocher was unwell and they added a name to him, and now he has the exact same name as his father-in-law. So the Nodah Yehuda starts off 5 lines in Ahuvai Talmidei, my student, if not for the fact that I love you so much, I don't discuss these things. This is not Gemoroh or Halacha. This is Kabbalistic superstition, we'll call it. But I love you so much, I'm going to do what I don't frequently do. You should know, my dear student, remember this forever. No rabbi can argue on the Gemorah. I don't care how great he is, and I don't care if he's coming to prohibit. He's not coming to make something permissible, he's coming to prohibit.
Yeah, that was his shita.
He says, if you do find a chacham who we know is upright and just, who writes something against the Gemorah, we have to break ourselves. We have to put our hand behind our back. L'taretz dvarav. Either he only meant temporarily, or he meant only for his family. Now you should know, about 400 years ago, there was a big meeting of Rabbanim in Poland, and the Maharsha was there. And the discussion turned to all of Rabi Yehuda Hachassid's mysterious instructions. And Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid says, if you remember, that nobody from his family should call themselves Shmuel or Yehudah. The Maharsha's name is Shmuel, his father's name is Yehudah, and he was from the family. So someone asked the Maharsha, how could you bear that name? How'd your father have that name? You guys are Einichlach. The Maharsha said, we're not careful about it anymore. It was only for the time, for a short amount of time. So that opens up a whole new possibility that Bechal, maybe none of it is relevant. The Nodah Yehuda mentioned such a possibility. It was Rak L'Shah, but he's never going to mention it again. Throughout the letter, he likes the other option, that the Yehuda Hachassid is talking about his family particularly. He's not arguing on the Gemorah. The Gemorah is talking in general. He's talking to the family.
Always to the family?
Yes, always. Now, some of the things say his family, some of them doesn't. So that's the word. He didn't write the sefer, his students wrote it. So the historian's conjecture is, when the students were sure that it was only for the family, they wrote the family. When they were unsure, they wrote nothing. So the fact that in a certain instance the family isn't mentioned is just because the writer wasn't sure. Says in Nodah Yehuda, I'm telling you logically, it only makes sense that it was always for the family. If that particular instruction goes against the Gemorah. If it goes against the Gemorah, you have to say that. And he says, we found certain things from Yehuda Hachassid, it's kimat asur to hear it. You can't even hear it. Now the Chassidim were very upset at the Nodah for writing such a statement. They seems to be questioning Yehuda Chassid's validity. We'll see about that. He said, and he quotes the Gemorah we saw. He said, Yehuda Hachassid, you can't marry your niece. And we saw in the Gemorah number 8, it's a mitzvah. He says, another thing that we didn't see yet. Can a father and a son marry 2 sisters? Imagine a father is getting married another time. He and his son are going to marry 2 sisters. It's mutter, halachically. Not just that, Rav Papa and his son married two sisters. Rabi Yehuda Hachassid said you can't. So what's he's throwing Rav Papa under the rug? He says two brothers can marry two sisters. What about the story in brachos of the 80 pairs of boys and girls? And Rav Chisda's two daughters who married Rami and Marukva Bar Chama. If the Chassid, Rabbi Yehuda, was talking to all Jews, he's contradicting the Gemoroh, it will be usher to listen to a word that he said. On the left side, but the truth is that
So, what is Rabbi?
if the Chassid was mitzavet tzavoazu will, if he instructed this will for all the Yidden, it would be sois of the Gemoroh, usher to Makabel. Look on the left side. But the truth is, the Chassid Lazare Acharav Tziv did only for his kids. Because he saw Beruach HaKodesh that his kids won't be Masliach in such a Zivugim. And therefore he's not contradicting the Gemoroh. The Gemoroh is talking about generally. He's talking about his family. That's one thing he says. I will tell you that many people have a question with Nodah Yehuda. Once you're saying that Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid saw in the future, and he was advising, don't do it because it'll have a bad ending, so then let him talk to all the Jews. I'm not arguing on the Gemoroh. It's taka mutter. It's halachically okay. I have good advice for you. It's not going to work out. Once you're saying that's Savara, then why limit it to his family? You can say it for the entire Jewish people. There are some that argue that.
But usually the Lashon Savor is for the family. A Chareidim is different.
Right.
But Savor is...
So we're going to see that Chaim Tzanzer was also unsure, maybe it's only for the family. The Tzemach Tzedek said it's only for the family.
All of them?
No, some of the things. Some of the things about the marriages. On the other hand, listen, the Rebbe Barash married his niece. Passed away right away. I mean, who are we to judge? But listen, scary stuff. So apparently the Nodah Yehuda must have felt, if Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid sees that it's no good for the entire Jewish people, why would the Gemoroh quote stories of people doing it as if to give off the message it's a good thing when the entire Jewish people are going to be put into danger later on because of it? So the Nodah Yehuda would say that even if Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid just saw the future, that it was unadvisable for anyone, that still kind of contradicts the Gemoroh. Because the Gemoroh is breaking the stories, giving you the impression, follow this, it's a good thing. And Yehuda Hachassid is saying, no. So therefore, Nodah feels, it must be the Nodah Yehuda felt that Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid may have been talking to his family, and that's it. Okay.
Maharsha's wife, the niece, sick anyways beforehand. She wasn't well.
As far as I know, got sick by the Sheva brachos.
Was from
by the Sheva brachos. Sheva brachos.
That close.
Yeah. No, the Rebbe Marash afterwards was very, very down. That some made a special chavrusa with him. The Rebbe Marash got remarried, and a few years later he lost a son. And he was.
Did Tzedek make that shidduch though? The first one.
The assumed was between Rebbe Marash and one of his brothers. When the Rebbe Marash lost his son, he was mamish tzebrochen, one curse after the other. He went to his father and he asked his father, I think the reason why my son died was for ABC. We don't know what it was. The Tzemach Tzedek said, no. Your son had the neshama of the Alter Rebbe. It was a gilgul of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe had to come back just for a couple of years. And then... Anyhow, go figure. Al Kapon, the Nodah Yehuda then, and he goes on to an arichis that he thinks even Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid was only talking about birth names. But if someone had an added name later, that wouldn't be an issue, and etc., etc. At the end of the letter, he says his famous sarcastic quip, and that is that people are so careful when it comes to shidduchim. Oi, what's her name? What's his name? What's my name? The mechutin's name. Who the bacher is, what his character is, that doesn't bother. It's the name. The Gemara in Pesachim says if someone marries off his daughter to an Amma Oretz, it's like placing her in front of a lion. I mean, the guy is going to tear her apart. That doesn't seem to bother people. No, it's a clear Gemara. What does bother people is the guy's name. Oh, the name. Anyhow, so that's his take. So Okay, I want to do this quick because we're going to see something fascinating. Look at number 5. Number 5 is Reb Chaim Tzanzer, the Divrei Chaim, wrote a letter. It's a famous letter where he is upset about the Nodah Yehudah's sharp terminology against Rabi Yehuda Hachassid. The Nodah writes a few times that, if Rabi Yehuda Hachassid was talking to all the Yidden, it would be usher to listen to him, and he would be soiser the Gemoroh. The Divrei Chaim says, we're talking about a man. Rabi Yehuda Hachassid was the greatest man of his generation. Not just in Kabbalah, in Nigla. Everything we have, the Tur, which is where basic halacha comes from, he learned from his father, the Rosh. The Rosh learned from the Maram of Rottenburg. He was a student of the Zerua. The Zerua got it from Yehudah Hachassid. I mean, this guy, he is the chain of halacha. He is the chain of Kabbalah. How could you even say such a thing that it would be usher to hear a word the man says? How could you talk like that? Reb Chaim Tzanzer was hurt on behalf of the dignity of Yehudah Hachassid. And Chaim Tzanzer writes like this. Whether the Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid is talking about only to his kids or to everyone remains to be debated. But what if he does say something which is against the Gemoroh? So the Nodah said, it must be he's talking about his family. Says Chaim Tzanzer, lav davka. It could be he's talking to Klal Yisrael. It's neged the Gemoroh. He says you have to understand something. And he brings his famous argument from Yibum. I'm going to some other achronim and bring this as well. When it comes to Yibum, Reuven and Shimon are brothers. Reuven's married to Leah. Reuven passes away without kids. Shimon is a mitzvah to marry Leah. Ordinarily, marrying a sister-in-law contains chorus. The mitzvah of Yibum overrides. Right. But should the mitzvah of Yibum not be at play, for example, there were a few brothers and one already did chalitza to her, or you did chalitza to her now and you want to remarry her, or your brother had a boy or this or that, it's dam chorus. You have a choice to do Yibum or Chalitza. The mitzvah of Yibum has priority. It's plan A. Chalitza is plan B. But came Abba Shol 2,000 years ago and says, if someone marries his sister-in-law for the sake of the mitzvah, that's one thing. But if he marries her for the sake of lust and not for the sake of the mitzvah, he doesn't get credit for the mitzvah. It's as if he's marrying his sister-in-law without the mitzvah of Yibum at play. It's almost like it carries chorus and the kid could be a mamzer. That's Abba Shol's comment. Now the Gemoroh in Yevamos has a whole sugya about this, and there's a major debate how we paskin. The Ashkenazi Rishonim all said, don't do Yibum anymore. Ashkenazim haven't done Yibum since that sugya. Since that sugya came out, since 450, the Common Era, when that Gemoroh came out, that's it, Yibum was out. The Sephardim have always done it. The Chaim 300 years ago was married, and he married his sister-in-law. He did Yibum, because the Sephardim never accepted Rabbeinu Gershom's rule of polygamy, of marrying more than one wife. It's okay. And number 2, they're still doing Yibum. Well, they were. But the Ashkenazim, we stopped doing Yibum. Because why? Because who knows what we're thinking. So here's a fascinating argument. Says Reb Chaim Tzanzer, marrying your niece, there could be some danger involved for the children or spiritual sakana. Back in the day, you want to see number 19 because he asked about and I'm just kidding. You can go whenever you want to go. Nobody is tied down. Everyone is free to go whenever they would like. But here's the thing. Maybe there's some physical danger, maybe spiritual danger. But back in the day, people did it for the sake of that it was right. There was a mitzvah to marry your niece. It was a good thing. Shomer mitzvah, the pasuk says, you do a mitzvah, you won't know anything negative. Rabi Yehuda Hachassid says, we're living in dark times. People aren't focused like they once were. Now, it's like the guy doing Yibum without having the intent for the mitzvah. The mitzvah won't protect you, and all you're left with is the Avera. So over here, all you're left with is the danger. All you're left with is the danger. There's a frightening Yerushalmi, number 19. Rabbi Yosi ben Chalafta Yibum es Eishes Achiv. Rabbi Yosi ben Chalafta did Yibum for his brother's wife. Chomesh Charishes Chorash v'chomesh Netiyas Nodah. 5 times he plowed, 5 times he was with her, and 5 times something was planted. V'derech Sodin Bol through a sheet. This is the source for the sheet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's Yerushalmi. It's funny that the Fry Yidden all pick up on this, they all know it, and then, the answer the Fruma Yidden give? No, the answer the Fruma Yidden give is that back in the day, before there was you had drying machines, laundry was hung, talis cotton was hung, right? Talis cotton looks like a sheet with a hole in the middle. They said, you saw my talis cotton hanging in the backyard, and you came up with some fantasy. It's actually Yerushalmi. And it says, Derech Sodenbel, he used a sheet between him and his sister-in-law. And you know who his 5 sons are? Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Lezer, the son of Rabbi Yossi, Menachem, Rabbi Chalafta, and Rabbi Avdimus. He went through a sheet. Now, the Ramak, Rabbi Moshe Cordovera writes, there are those who bring up the idea of doing it through a sheet. He says, Chas v'shalom. He says, Chas v'shalom. How could... There are 3 things a husband owes his wife. She'er, ksus, and oina. She'er is food. According to one Tana, she'er means closeness of skin. According to some Tana, there's a biblical obligation for closeness of skin. You can't have something in between. And the Ramak writes, if someone has something in between, it's like it's mamish. It's a chatzitza between the shchin and this and that. So what was Rabbi Yossi doing over here? If I'll pick Kabbalah, it's so negative. What was Rabbi Yossi doing? The source of the sheet. It was a case of Yibum. Rabbi Yossi held like Abba Shol. I don't want to see her. If I see and I'm attracted to her, and I don't have in mind the mitzvah, she's my sister-in-law.
And look what he got. He got good stuff out of it.
What?
That's the first time or all the time?
He 5 times, and each time.
But he got good stuff out of it. It worked.
Every time she was pregnant, so that's it.
It worked for him. All 5 of
Yeah,
these guys
5
were-
exactly.
But how do you have a healthy
Isn't
marriage?
there something about wearing tzitzis?
Wearing tzitzis, yeah, Kabbalah. Yeah. Well, yeah, okay.
Same as a condom.
It's
We say it's the same as a condom.
It
It doesn't work that way, though.
I know. I'm not saying it's a joke. I'm just saying it's.
And yeah, but the vortish people, the problem is when the Friar people find this Yerushalmi, they say, no, there is a source.
How are the
Yeah.
people finding this Yerushalmi?
Because Safari and any of these.
The
things-
problem, no, but you have to realize this.
They're searching for this.
It was only by a case of Yibum. And you have to know the background of Yibum.
Right.
He was worried if he sees her,
Take it way
the
out of
moment his
context.
mind will focus on her beauty instead of the mitzvah.
Yeah.
It's a sister-in-law, Kada. So
You're scared.
this was one. So go back to number 15.
Tzitzis, you were just saying.
There is a Kabbalistic chumrah, but I don't know if they all agree to it, about wearing tzitzis. I don't know. There's
That
a...
would fit even in with this question.
Listen, the Gemoroh says Rabbi Eliezer, when he was with his wife, he was mostly dressed. He would only uncover the bare necessity. So how does that go with the fact that there needs to be cure of basar? Okay, so there's a lot to discuss about it. Because one Gemara says that the Persians used to do it in clothes, and Chas v'sholom to go like the Persians needs to be no barrier in between. When there's a barrier down here between a husband and wife, there's a barrier in heaven, and all these things. So the tzitzis is I don't know. You have to ask your personal mashpia if wearing the tzitzis is the right thing or not. But I'll put him in number 15. He says, "Be'emes." This is from Reb Chaim Tzanzer. Ein lahakshis. You can't ask from the Gemoroh Rabi Yehuda Hachassid. Halo yadu alanu. Don't we know? B'kamoise. Similar to this, we say. Mitchila, in the beginning, mitzvahs Yibum was preferred to chalitza. But then, Shiro, they saw ein ador mechavanim, that people are, sorry, they're not mechavnim for the mitzvah. They said, you know what, chalitza is better. So kamoike and yochalitza could be shiro b'kamois elu hazivugim. All of these unions that was once okay. Im hayachitun l'shem shemayim, like in the early days. Lo yedu shomer mitzvah dover to pasuk. Shomer mitzvah lo yedu dover, nothing will harm you. Umishum hachi, the Chachmei Talmud weren't careful. Your father-in-law and you having the same name, but if you're marrying the woman for proper reasons and you feel that it's the Eibishter's, that she is the one fit for your neshama, and you have you're untouchable. Va'adarab, it's a mitzvah to marry your niece as well. Rabi Yehuda Hachassid saw we're 1,000 years later. And people get married, it's not l'shem shamayim. So now the protection's off. All you're left with is danger. It's just like the Yibum and Chalitza case. And if he goydel chachmasa, he was able to realize what could be the outcome of these zivugim, and therefore he forbade it. This is the famous argument of Chaim Tzanzer. Yeah. So if you look at number 16, the Shem Aryeh said the same thing. The Shem Aryeh, Aryeh Leibish Balchover, was a Bulchover, a Rav in Russia 150 years ago. He wrote big stuff. He writes a similar thing. He says, look at Rabi Yehuda Hachassid himself, what he writes in the Sefer Chassidim. Shekasav v'zel l'shayna. Rabi Yehuda Hachassid says, in number 16, line number 2, Roiv bonim, most sons are similar to the mother's brother. Ulekach, therefore, if you marry your niece, it's a chassid, right? Like we saw from Rabbeinu Tam made that same connection. You should marry your sister's daughter because she's similar to you, because you're her mother's brother. That's what Rabbeinu Tam said. So it's a good. B'chal also, then her kids will be similar to you too. Because her kids, your niece's kids will be similar to her brothers, and her brothers are similar to you. Anyhow, but Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid writes in the Sefer Chassidim that ulekach omer, you find avo, but if someone's a rosh, he's mechaven for his benefit, that he has a sheina niece, a plumenis, he wants to marry, he doesn't marry her for the mitzvah, it's not good. So says the Shem Aryeh, harav zal cholakein lehedya. You're just looking at Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid's tzavois, there's no explanations there. In the Sefer Chassidim, some of these tzavois have more elaboration. Most of them don't, but some of them. And here it does. The rabbi said clearly, if he's marrying her for pleasure, there's no more mitzvah. Right? He's not doing ulekach shaper tzivi, you shouldn't do it. Because if you do it for benefit, right, there could be some sakana, there could be some danger. The Gemoroh is talking about you do the Shem Shemayim, there's no danger. Ubechinam tom olav, he gives the exact same answer as Reb Chaim Tzanzer. So these two great, Chaim Tzanzer was a big, huge scholar.
When?
The times of the Tzemach Tzedek. He passed away 10 years later, 1876. Reb Chaim Tzanzer. He was incredible. He was a Chassidish Rebbe, an incredible gon. No. He was later. He had a big issue with his foot. Whenever he used to daven, he would stamp his foot. So the doctor said, Rabbi, you want to stamp your foot is one thing, but you have to alternate. If you would alternate, so he says, Doctor, if I could alternate, I wouldn't do it all together.
How did he become a Chassidish? What was his line? Tzanzer. Tzemach Tzedek. So
where the Tzanzer Rebbe comes from.
No, he was with
So it's Baal Shem Tov?
No, it's later.
I'm saying, but it's from that line, obviously, right?
No.
It's not a student of a student of a
No,
student.
yeah. Who was he? Well, maybe it was by the Rosh Hashanah. I actually don't know offhand who his Rebbe was. You can check it up later. Anyhow, Reb Chaim Tzanzer, Rabbi Avadia Yosef has a well-known letter where he says his whole opinion on Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid. And he's with the Nodah Yehudah all the way. He believes Yehuda Hachassid's things are not incumbent upon anyone. If you happen to know you're an Einikul is one thing. Otherwise, Avadia Yosef holds it's not halachically binding. The Chidah in a letter shakes from Yehuda Hachassid's warnings. Avadia Yosef says it's not halachically binding. Nobody's halachically bound to follow it. And he writes in number 18, I have a piece from his letter over here, where he says the Yibum and Chalitza analogy from the Chaim Tzanzer and the Shem Aryeh is no good. Listen, we once saw the Avnei Nezer by the machine matzah debate. There was Sholem Mordechai Shvadron, the Marsham of Brezhan, big Rav, and the Avnei Nezer says this guy might be a big rabbi. He's nothing compared to the Divrei Chaim, who forbade machine matzah. So the Avnei Nezer said the Maharsha is nothing in learning compared to the Divrei Chaim. I'm sure he would have said Avadia Yosef.
Definitely would.
But Avadia Yosef feels that the comparison is no good. Now, the question is going to ask is is he's going to point out a very obvious distinction, which everyone's aware of. I mean, Chaim Tzanzer wasn't saying they're identical halachas. He was bringing out an idea. But Avad Yosef, let's see what he writes. Let's see in number 18. He argues like this: Masha kosav ad Divrei Chaim l'dam es dover zeh to Yibum v'chalitza loydam niklal. It's not the same at all. The shiny hasam by Yibum and chalitza. If the mitzvah's off, you're pagay, you're meeting up, you're touching your brother's wife without a mitzvah. And there's going to be chorus. Ukeda Amar Abba Shol, who says, Mahai time Hashem Echavim, since you're not having in mind for the mitzvah, it could be the Vlad Mamzer, it's chorus. Masha Enkin and all these Rabi Yehuda Hachassid, there's no chashash erva, there's no adultery or any incest happening. It's just the son-in-law, the father-in-law, the same name, this and that. So who cares that you don't have in mind the Shem mitzvah? I don't know, to me, that argument, listen, just like I would say Avad Yosef is here and Divrei Chaim is over there, I would also say Avad Yosef is here and I'm down here. But I would say that I don't understand his argument. Chaim Tzanzer never said that in the case of Yehudah Hachassid, if you don't have the right intentions, it's chorus. It's sakana.
Yeah.
It's a danger. It's danger. That's the whole idea. The comparison is just like by the Yibum and Chalitza, by the Yibum and the chorus. The moment you don't have the mitzvah, you're left with the avera. So too by all of these sakana unions. When you have a mitzvah, you're protected. No mitzvah, you're left with sakana. No one's saying you're left with chorus. I mean, I don't even understand why that's a serious question.
You close to Avad Yosef and Avad Yosef is to Divrei Chaim.
No, listen, I'm okay. No, but I'm doing to him what he did to the Divrei Chaim. In other words, who am I to ask on him? But who's in it? This is Darker Shel Torah. You have to ask. In other words, anyhow, v'gam b'Gemoroh Yevamos. Sama. By the way,
doesn't it say in the pasuk v'hakim zera lachicha? That's the point. So who cares what you think about it? You don't judge the person based on his.
Okay, that's a shal b'chal and Abba Shol. That's b'chal. Okay. Mitzvahs need kavanah. If you don't have kavanah to do the mitzvah, there is no mitzvah. Now, hold on, but he continues. If you look in the Gemoroh in Yevamos, it says it's a mitzvah to marry your niece. It doesn't say that you should do it for the sake of the mitzvah. That's his second question.
That's a good question.
I don't see that as a question at all. The Gemoroh is saying it's a mitzvah to marry your niece. The Gemoroh doesn't say you have to do it for the sake of the mitzvah. The Gemoroh doesn't have to say that. That could be something that needs to come through intuition.
That question? What's the
No, because Chaim Tzanzer's whole argument was
like the other person
that marrying your niece taka carries a sakana. Chaim Tzanzer wanted to say like this: the danger of Yehudah Hachassid saw was always present since day one.
If you have it for the right reasons,
exactly,
it trumps.
But then the Gemoroh should have said, marry your sister, but make sure you do it for the mitzvah.
But it's clear. The Gemara is clear. You're dealing with people who are so much better in those days.
The Gemara doesn't even use the word mitzvah. The RAMBAM says the Gemara says it's a beautiful thing.
It doesn't need to. They're assuming.
But the Gemara says as long as you marry your niece, it doesnn't say hanoises basachoisai l'shem shamayim. The Gemara often throws in the words l'shem shamayim. I guess Avad Yosef is bothered. Why didn't the Gemara add the words if you marry your niece l'shem shamayim? It doesn't say those words. It's mashma as long as you do the deed. The truth is, though, his third question here actually hits me the most. He said, wait a second. According to Chaim Tzanzer, let's think for a second. Two siblings marrying siblings or the names being the same was always a danger. But at the times of the Gemorah, they had the right things in mind. No, but Abba Shol was in the times of the Gemorah, and he said, don't do Yibum. Because people already weren't doing it for the sake of the mitzvah. So then by all of the unions as well, it should have already been a danger.
It is.
But
no. Hold on. This child is, I think, is actually on the mark. Ukvar b'doroisam, Abba Shol said, they're not mechavan l'shem mitzvah. But nonetheless, the Gemara still says, marry your niece. According to Chaim Tzanzer's whole theory,
marry your niece
marrying
before Abba Shol's statement.
No, Abba Shol is a Tana. Marrying your niece is also a brisa, same time. You're going to split the generations. So he says, he says, maybe you're going to say that for for Yibum they were doing it for lust and for all the other, and for the niece it's for the Shem mitzvah.
There's many reasons for it. I'll tell you why.
Doicha gadol.
I'll tell you why.
So that child is a child.
To marry your niece it's not a straight mitzvah because you're saving your brother's thing. There's many different reasons. We all just went through them. Family, you know who you're getting. It's a good thing. It's similar.
Yeah.
Those are all separate things. You're not marrying them for any just because the Torah said so. It's a good thing. Save your brother. You're marrying them for good reason.
Still considered the same mitzvah.
And it's the Shem mitzvah.
Okay.
For your brother's wife, there's no other good reason to marry them. You're just doing it. So if you're going to do it for lecherous reasons, that's bad.
Okay.
So even in Abba Shaul's time, it could have been that the people were ready for that falling a little bit. But for the other ones, it's not a fall. It's you're bearing your brother, 2 sisters and 2 brothers. There's no real... Also, there's other things that are at play here with that big possibility where it's not at play with any of the other things. So to focus on that, I don't think the Avad Yosef...
The Pele is how come Chaim Tzanzer doesn't deal with this issue is so in the face. It's such a glaring issue.
Yeah, but the Chaim Tzanzer
it must have been obvious to him.
It's obvious to him because it's obvious to Abba Shaul that, listen, there's no other possible good from it. It's just for that, and if you're only taking it to grab a top of a lady...
I and my brother are very similar. If she was good for my brother, she's good for me. In fact, that's why God gave the mitzvah of Yibum in the first place. No, it's a good match. It's a good match. So I'm marrying her because it's a good match.
It's a good match. It's not at all. You're saving your brother's
No. But no. Hold on. God also cares about the living brother. And there's an idea that if she was good for your brother, she's good for you. Yeah, why isn't someone...
that's why there's chalitza.
If someone does
because
chalitza,
she curses for you.
No, if someone does chalitza...
She curses him.
Do you know why?
Yeah.
You know why?
Because for her, it's not good.
No.
The
Rishonim right in Chumash, the reason is because you're expected to do Yibum. Because if she was good for your brother, she's probably good for you.
I don't know that.
Yeah. There are sources that say that. So I would ask, even if he doesn't have in mind the mitzvah of Yibum, who said he's doing it just for lust? Maybe Taka thinks she's a good shidduch for him.
No, because that's why Abba Shaul was saying it. The people were doing it. It became a thing. Just hop another lady. It's a free lady. I don't even have to do anything. I don't have to work for it. I don't have to take her out. I don't have to be a mensch. I don't have to fake it. Nothing. I just hop a lady. So there's no effort at all. Even if it's your niece, you still gotta convince your brother that you're a decent guy to marry your niece, or your sister to marry their niece. There's effort that's involved. This is effortless.
Two brothers marrying 2 sisters.
There's danger involved. 2 brothers marrying, there's still effort.
There's danger. What are we saying? The times of the Gemoroh when all those married the siblings, they did it for the sake of the mitzvah. There's no mitzvah, but they did it for right reasons. What does right reasons mean? That they felt, I guess, if my brother married her sister,
I know her.
Then probably she's tzukapast.
Yeah,
so they did it for altruistic reasons.
Yeah, but here there's nothing other than
by the Yibum, even if it's not for the mitzvah, why can't it be for the same altruistic reasons? If she's good for my brother,
it could. That's what it's.
So it doesn't have to be lust.
Not that it's good for me. I'm honoring my brother. I'm doing it. That's the mitzvah.
So unless the
not that it's good for me.
So in other words, by Yibum, the moment you're not doing it for Yibum, then you don't get the mitzvah of Yibum. You fall back to the chorus.
Yeah.
So even
the other things you don't have that.
So even if you're doing it because you think she's a good shidduch, it's not for the sake of Yibum. So you don't get credit for the mitzvah.
Yeah.
So it's okay, fine. Okay.
Yibum is not good for me. It's not like
Chaim Tzanzer has been vindicated. There is one of the sin number 17. We'll listen and then we'll finish. This is again the Shem Aryeh, who agrees. He's also on board with Chaim Tzanzer. He says in number 17, Aryeh Leibish Bulchaver was his name. We don't know much about him.
Yeah.
I quoted him in number 16.
Yeah.
It's in the same letter. He writes in number 17, Mashetama the Rabi Yehuda and Yehuda Hachassid, who says the 2 brothers shouldn't marry 2 sisters. Because in Gemoroh you find that they did. And Mizeh Moichiach, we're number 17, the second line, that the Nodah says, well, if he's going against the Gemoroh, he must have been talking about the Hachasid loy omar rak ala prat. He's only talking about his descendants, nobody else. And the Gemara is talking about the general rule. That was the Nodah Yehuda's consensus number 13. In order, Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid shouldn't be a kafir, God forbid, which is basically what Rabbi was saying. The Gemara is talking about general. He's talking about his family. Says the Shem Aryeh Eino Muchrach. I don't see that. You could say just the opposite. That the Chasid Zal is talking to every Jew. The Gemara was talking about those few people that happen to know that it's okay for them. Well, B'shas that you find they married was that's the exception. Yeah. They saw and they knew in those that there wouldn't be a concern. Because Bavadai Chachmei Hashas saw and more knew than Rabi Yehuda Hachassid. And that's what he says. I'll tell you not so fast. Reb Shner Parnas was a friend of Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid. His name was Shner Parnas, lived 800 years ago. He said a famous comment that even the RAMBAM repeated. If Rabbi Yehuda Hachassid would have been in the times of the Amoraim, he would have been an Amora. If he would have been the times of the Tanoim, if he would have been the times of him, would have been a Navi.
I don't know that he's saying they knew more than him. Could it be that he's saying that just like Rabbi Yehuda,
he says, "Bavad the Chachmei Hashas knew more." The point of, but okay, he
knew more than him, or the people Rabbi Yehuda?
No. They knew more than him. No, they knew more than him. He's not trying to bash Yehuda Chassid. He's trying to make a point. The same way the Nodah Yehuda is fine and saying, the Gemoroh is talking about 95% of Jews, 99. He happened to see about his descendants. To say the opposite.
Yeah, you saw.
He saw about everyone,
and they saw.
The Gemoroh saw
about them.
Who said this?
The Shem Aryeh. So he wants to say that Shner Parnas. He was a Rishon. By the way, the Rebbe once quoted the Friedrich Rebbe. It seems like the same idea about the Alter Rebbe. That had he been in the times, it would have been, but even greater than Yehudah Hachassid, because Yehudah Hachassid, had he been in those times, he would have been that great. Had he been by the Navim, he would have been a Navi. Had he been by the...
It's like Rashi Banoach.
Right. But the fact is he wasn't, so therefore he didn't reach that.
So the Rebbe
but the Alter Rebbe was.
That's why a Tanya goes, it's the same as a Chumash.
Yeah. The Alter Rebbe was a Tana, he was a Navi. Anyhow, the point of the Shem Aryeh, he's not trying to bash Yehudah Chassid Chas v'Shalom. The point is making...
he's trying to save him.
Yeah, he's trying to strengthen the Tzavah. He's saying, B'shar Anoshim, may be like this. Maybe amongst Jews here and there it's going to be dangerous, and no one's going to know when. So Yehudah Hachassid, no one should do it. But if somebody's able to see, if someone's able to see that it's going to be okay, like the times of the Gemoroh, he says, and
those people were able to see.
And he brings a raya because there are some things in the Tzavor which says his children. Is a raya that the other things are for everyone. Right. I told you many disagree with that because it could be
that makes sense.
No, because who wrote? If it was written by Yehudah Chassid's students, so the way it works like this: whatever they remember hearing from Rabbi Yehuda that was for his kids, they wrote for his kids. Whatever they don't remember, they wrote stam. But there's no raya.
I'm trembling with the Chadah.
The Chidah wants to say that the Tzavor is for everybody.
For sure.
Hold on, the Tzemach Tzedek though went with the Nodah Yehuda on this.
On this or
on this he quoted this because Tzemach Tzedek.
But then you said the Rebbe
within his own kids there were marriages that violated some of the things, and the Tzemach Tzedek said, we rely on the Nodah Yehuda. Nebuch, the Rebbe Maharsha's niece, passes away right after the wedding. But on the other hand, the Rebbe told people to be very careful.
Yeah.
In 770, they were closing one of the entranceways. That's the Rebbe said, make sure you leave a hole there.
Yeah.
Yehudah Hachassid. The fact is, Rabbi Yehudah Hachassid, they said not to marry a stepsister, and I know that we're knowing that you can. One of the Alter Rebbe's greatest chassidim, Rabbi Baruch Mordechai Babroisker, he was in Vilna, a genius of a guy in Vilna. I'll tell you one story about him that you love before I get to this. Okay. Baruch Mordechai was a big Rav in Babroisk, and one day two business partners, came to the Alter Rebbe, and they had some big issue, business issue. So Alter Rebbe asked him, do you have some document? Did you make a shtar? No? What's a contract? Business contract. So they said, sure. They brought it out. So Alter Rebbe looks at it, and he sees very carefully in the words that the wording had already forewarned that if this and this would happen, the agreement would be such and such. So Alter Rebbe said, it's clear in the contract. They came back a few months later, another issue. Alter Rebbe said, bring me the contract. He reads it again, and he sees on another line, it was hinted very carefully that if that would happen, this and this would be the agreement. After this happened the third time, the Alter Rebbe asked him, who wrote this contract for you? It's like, so perfect. They said, Baruch Mordechai, the Rav, Babroisk. The next time he came to the Alter Rebbe,
this Baruch Mordechai,
the Alter Rebbe gave him a sharp word. He said, you're using so much of your brain power in writing business contracts. Anyhow, but this Baruch Mordechai, when he was younger, he grew up in Vilna. He was very close to the Vilna Gaon. his mother married the last Av Bezin of Vilna. His name was Shmuel, Reb Shmuel. The last Av Bezin of Vilna. And his mother married, he actually knew Reb Shmuel.
What do you mean, remarried? Mother.
Yeah. Baruch Mordechai knew Shmuel. Baruch Mordechai was out of the city. He comes back. I think he even missed his mother's wedding, second marriage. I think Reb Shmuel respected the kid so much, he said, let me marry your mother. Anyhow, Baruch Mordechai ends up marrying his stepsister. He married the daughter of this Shmuel, of his mother's...
blood relation.
Not blood relation. Rabi Yehuda Hachassid said you can't do that.
Can't.
So it seems that, like that, for example, we're not noyig. So that Tzemach Tzedek apparently said that in some things we rely on the Nodah Yehuda's take that was only for the family. In other things we say it's universal.
Cutting the nails.
Well, many things are brought in Shulchan Aruch, not cutting nails or hair on Rosh Chodesh,
Going through a window.
Who tells us
not
to cut
bearing
the nails like
enemies.
this? That's you.
That's no. That's from that's Kamul Kabbalim. But there were.
The sakana to go through a window. You have to go through. You're not allowed to go climb through a window. Go out of a. Go.
I don't remember ever saying that climbing through a window.
That's allowed to be the Hachasid.
No, I don't think so. I've been to the Tzavah. I don't remember seeing that climbing through a window. He has lots of interesting things over here. We saw a few of them. But if you leave a house and if you leave and you move to another city, and you want to move back to the original city, you want to go back to the same house, it can't be within 7 years. Like one of the things, an oven, a big one is an oven, right?
Yeah.
You don't move an oven in order to renovate and use that place for something else. And this was a big one. Some people laughed at it. Big Hagdolah Poskim hundreds of years ago, right? Stories of people that did this for shul, for base medrash. People were dying.
To move an oven?
Yeah. Place of an oven
So
to rebuild.
If you're remodeling your kitchen,
What does it say?
you can't put
What
it
does
in a
it say?
separate
Don't-
place.
What are you going to do with the first place?
What
Of
does it talk about? It says feast to give
Wow.
life.
If you
Does it
can't
say about the
put
Chaim or
something
Chaim gives you life? Does it
Yeah,
say
but
about
in the
Chaim?
same
What?
spot. What if you're moving your whole kitchen
There's
around?
certain things that give you life
But
that
you
you know how
want
to
an
destroy
oven
them.
there,
It
so
gives you
put
life.
Yeah, but you don't.
a tree,
That's the point.
a fruit tree.
Put it in another spot.
The fact we don't write our name in a sefer. He writes over here. You know when you open a sefer, people write La Hashem Ha'aretz U'Malaya, then you write your name. If you notice, people in a sefer, you'll see La. Why don't you just write this sefer belongs to so and so? Says Yehuda Hachassid, do not write on a sefer that it's mine.
What if you
Just write your name without saying that it's mine.
Oh,
Yeah. That's why he says he gives it.
never write anything. You just write your name.
A tree, a fruit tree, you don't cut down.
Yeah, that's
People are so careful.
Yeah. Amishes,
They would never.
build
They would
houses
never.
around.
Yeah, they would never. Because that's what it said. Because
So with the oven, if you're gonna redo your kitchen,
Oven goes back in the
oven
It's
same
a
goes
spot.
back
major
in the same
sakana.
spot.
or you leave the place
Depends if
empty.
it's a gas
Or
oven.
you don't use it. You leave that place empty. You shut it off. You put something.
You just messed up
Make
all
empty
his
box
new
around.
renovation
Uh-oh.
house.
The oven is very serious because that one I've seen many throughout history.
People
Now I can tell
So
my
the-
wife.
it's actually one of the big ones.
Brothers, we didn't renovate.
It's one of the big
promised
ones.
you 9 years
Here's
ago.
an.
Now you know why.
Now you know why. Shkach brothers. I'm not kidding, by the way.
Tell
That's
Shanae
true.
to come to that for bringing.
Okay, we'll stop the
Why
video. We'll
isn't
stop
that
the video.